Yeah. Yeah, just rewinding a little bit, it's funny how you said he was like, because I think back to, like your goalie got into a goalie fight and that's how you sort of got your minutes. Well, when I got my first minutes in college, it was because the other goalie was returning. He was gonna be the starter. They didn't even think I was gonna play that much. And, he hurt his groin in training camp, and then the first weekend came around and they had no choice but to really play me, and then I played well, and we lost the first night like 4-2, and then the second night we tied North Dakota though, and honestly, that probably changed the whole trajectory. I didn't even win, and that changed the whole trajectory of my college career probably, because then the next weekend we played Penn State in the Wells Fargo Stadium, we won, and then the next night after that I played Notre Dame, had just come in the Hockey East. I think they're gone now, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But we beat them and then we lost to them the second night, and that's when we started alternating again. But looking at the beginning of my career, like if I wasn't ready to finally, like I went in at 20, right? And then they randomly got minutes, and it was sink or swim, and if I didn't do that good, it probably would have, my college career probably would have looked way different. I probably wouldn't have played like 70 games, right? So,
yeah.
but looking back a bit on, you talk about your bouncing back, from bad performances. What did you do, either like mentally or physically? Like, what did you tell yourself that sort of allowed you to either bounce back from a bad performance, or like what you said, that one game you played good, you gave up the first shot of the game. How did you mentally sort of get over those challenges when they came?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times I would look back to prior success in games from prep school or for juniors. Like you have some games, and I'm sure all of us goalies have this, like where there's some games where there's just no chance they can score on you. And I would kind of think back to those games, and um, even too in college, like I can remember, I think I was very lucky with my parents. They aren't hockey people, but they're super caring and loving. But I think the best thing that they did with me is they kind of just they weren't afraid to let me fall. They weren't afraid to let me make mistakes, and they were always super supportive. But I can remember talking to my dad after one of those bad games, and um, my dad never showed emotion to me after the games, but now he would share with me. He was like, "Hey, like I was just as pissed off as you were that like I wanted you to play well. Like I wasn't mad at you, but I was mad for you just knowing all the hard work that you put in. Like I wanted you to play well." But I remember my dad would just be like, be the best player on the ice at Monday's practice, be the best player on the ice at Tuesday's practice. And I think if I when I had those kind of so-so game, one so-so game that next week, like I had a really good week of practice. Like I kind of had a little bit of a pissed off fu mentality. I was a really good teammate, but like I was not getting scored on. Like at that time, people would talk a lot about Dominic Hasek, about how hard he was in practice and he wouldn't want to get scored on. And I would kind of have that same mentality. And even from the first drill in practice, like sometimes as a goalie, you want to get warmed up, you want to feel good, you want guys to snap it off from the blue line. Like I was kind of like, I don't care where they shoot it from, like I'm going to stop every single shot. Have that mentality. I feel like that's really kind of what got me back into it. Um, I would also I would go on early and just do some basic skating drills, hand drills that would kind of help me feel like I would get settled and get my hands under me. So like if I felt like kind of if I wasn't in a good place, just a few basic drills, just skating drills, working your hands, working your stick, feeling the puck. Those things were important. But it's again too is kind of funny. I can remember on my mom too after going into my junior year. I remember her just being like, "Hey, just stop the puck. Like it's easy. You just got to stop the puck. Like you don't have anything else but to think about, but stop the puck." And I can remember there was a few times maybe in my younger days, like I'd be like, "Oh my God, like that kid's committed to that school or that guy's a draft pick. Like he must just be the best player ever." And then kind of just clearing my mind and just being like, stop the puck. Like that kind of simplifies it as much as you can do it. Um, so I mean, I think too often nowadays parents are afraid for their kids to fail. And that was kind of the best thing for me. It helped me get thicker skin. It helped me work harder. It helped me get more focus. It helped me find solutions to the problems. And that's, I mean, I'm not the only one that has it had to be that way, but that's kind of what worked for me. And that's how I had to find success.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sort of your last performance only defines you, if you let it, right? The best thing you can do is turn the page, right?
Yeah.
And if you let that sort of haunt over you, you let that pour into your next game and stuff, that reflects poorly on you more than just flushing it and just showing people it was sort of a bump in the road, right?
No, for sure.
Um, so you go pro after your senior year and you have an opportunity to play 5 American League games, which is exceptional. So congrats on that. And looking back at your experience when you first went pro, what's the one thing you would go back and tell yourself to better prepare you for pro hockey and to be successful in the American League?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that I wish I could do is just be more open minded about the situation that you go into going from college to pro. Um, I went into the mindset like I want to play in the American League, and I'll probably have to start off in the coast, but I want to get up to the American League as fast as possible. And I wish I kind of appreciated things in the coast a little bit more to get to the American League. But um, when I got to the American League, I think I wish I would have appreciated it more. Like I think I kind of had more of a chip. Like I should have been up here sooner. Like
Mm,
I can stay up here. And I did have a couple good starts in the American League. I also had a couple crappy starts. So I think too, one thing that I was unaware of going from college to pro. When I graduated college, I was 25 years old, and for me, I was going into Washington Capitals training camp, and I'm like, hey, I'm a rookie, like I got to earn everything I can get. And then I sit down with the goalie coach there, Dave Pryor and Arturs Urbe, and they're like, hey, like they're like, you're really, really old. You're 25. And I'm like, how the heck am I old? Like I'm a rookie. Like I just finished training camp. Like I've only been here a week or two. Like how did I get old so fast? So those kind of things I wasn't kind of prepared for. But the American League, kind of comparing it to college hockey in the East Coast League, like the American League for me, like the passing was very crisp. The game was more structured. It wasn't kind of as chaotic. Um, like you just had to be prepared for guys to make passes and catch passes and shoot pucks in awkward places where maybe in college or in the East Coast League, guys couldn't make that pass or catch that puck or one time that shot. Like those were kind of the big things from a goalie perspective that stood out to me.
yeah. And then you went on to play 25 games in the ECHL as well. Maybe you can give us some insight in your experience, some things you did well when you went pro, and then some things you think that, other goalies should be on the lookout for maybe as they start their pro careers.
Yeah. The for some reason my first year pro when I was in the coast, I started the year in South Carolina. I don't know why, but like for me personally, like I just needed to be more mentally engaged. I did my same pregame routine from college, same warm up routine, and just for some reason that first year, like I gave up one bad goal my first maybe 3 or 4 games, and I always recovered from that bad goal. But the coach at that time too, I guess he was not really happy about the bad goal that I gave up. Like I think I might have started like 3-0 or 4-0, but like it really bothered him that I would give up a soft goal. So
Mhm.
I think I should have communicated with that coach a little bit more. And in the coast too, like we didn't have a goalie coach, so I would always after practice I would always stay on super late. I would take shots for skill development drills. I would play rebounds. I would play 2 puck, 3 puck. Like I would stay on forever. Um, I wish I was maybe a little bit more stern with my teammates to be like, hey, like let me do this skating drill or this hands drill or using some stick saves or some post work. Like let me do a couple of drills and then we can kind of get into the games and stuff like that. But I was a rookie and I just kind of kept my mouth shut and whatever the guys wanted to do, I would just do it. And that first year pro in the coast, like it went decent when I was in South Carolina. Like I think I could have done better than what I did. And then when I was actually up in the American League, um, I think it was the trade deadline in the coast. My coast rights got traded from South Carolina to Elmira. So that was interesting. I was up in the American League. I think I was up there for around like maybe a month or a few weeks, and rights get traded. And I knew that meant that I was going to get sent back down. A few days go by. I get sent back down to South Carolina where I'd been traded from. So like I got to walk into the room and get all my stuff out of the apartment and just kind of a weird feeling. And it's whatever it is, a business in pro hockey and stuff like that. Like you're going to be traded, and that's going to continue to happen in pro hockey. But it was just kind of weird that you're away and your rights get traded, and you come back like your car's in the parking lot. You got to clean up your stuff out of your stall, out of your house, and then you got to drive whatever 15 hours. So those kind of things too, you don't think about, but you got to be ready for it in pro hockey.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of transactions. I think that's like the biggest thing that really catches people off guard is the amount of transactions that go on, left, right, up, down, and then being a victim of sort of like that bubble effect of guys dropping down and then you're getting dropped down and having to deal with playing at the lower levels and trying to play with that chip on your shoulder, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I didn't mention it earlier, and this is no excuse. Like I was a solid goalie. There's way better goalies out there than me, but things being about timing too. Like when I was at Avon Old Farms, Jonathan Quick and I were there together, and then I'm in Washington, and Braden Holtby and I are together in the American League. Like you knew Quick was going to be pretty good, and then I got to pro, and I knew Holtby was good. Like I knew he was going to be legit in the NHL, and I remember being at training camp, and I'm like, holy crap! Like this guy's 20 and I'm 25. Like maybe I should have signed here. I play behind a Vesna winner and a Conn Smythe winner in my career, so maybe not the best timing in some places.
I guess we're always rolling the dice, right? Wherever we go, you know what I mean? And you and I talked about it earlier in the, before we got on the call of like it's just the goalie world is so deep now. There's just so many good goaltenders at the next level, and nowadays you got guys on American League NHL contracts and the ECHL. Half the league is NHL contracted guys. So learning to sort of deal with those politics, learning to maybe not play every night, because that day will come where you're sort of battling for minutes and you're fighting a really good other goalie, and the world gets really small, right? Um, but you decided to retire in 012 and pick up a goalie coaching job in D3 and eventually becoming an assistant coach and then moving on to coach at the Division 1 level for the last 6 years now. Maybe you can just give us some insight on some major differences that you've seen between Division 1s and Division 3 goalies, in your opinion.
The I would say the difference between the two is maybe just D3, like the lower end is different than the lower end of Division 1. Like across the board in Division 1, like all 60 schools all have one or two pretty good goalies. In Division 3, I would say maybe the top half of Division 3 has some pretty strong goalies. But maybe the bottom half might be a little bit different. But Division 3 hockey is highly underrated. Our team at Nazareth, where I first started coaching, we had some pretty good goalies. We had one that went on to play pro. So Division 3, it's not like it's the end of the world if you go there. Like you're not going to have a chance to play. Like one of our defensemen, like he played in the coast for multiple years and played over in Europe for multiple years. So like if you take your training, your nutrition pretty serious, you can have that. It's just maybe a little bit too of a different mentality, Division 1 to Division 3. Like I'd say the two schools that I've worked at in Division 1, like all the guys take sleeping, eating, training pretty serious. I'd say Division 3, maybe there's just not as many resources where you might not have the same type of food or nutrition and those things where it's on you, where you have to be smart at the dining halls and you have to be smart what you're cooking at your apartment and that type of thing, and taking care of your body and that type of stuff. Um, but the same amount of time, like when I was as a coach in D3 to D1, like I put the same amount of time into the goalies when we're doing things multiple times a week and things like that. So the Division 3, like the top D3 teams are just as good as some Division 1 teams.
Yeah, for sure. No, I seen it too. Even in pro hockey, you have some guys that I've had an opportunity to play against the last few years. National championship D3 goalies that could have easily played D1. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Yeah. Well, now diving into some of your work in Division 1, working with St. Lawrence, and now UMass Amherst, a top program in the country. What are some of the characteristics that you look for in goaltenders when you're recruiting that will transition well from junior to college level?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing I look for is a goalie that competes. The I mean, you play this way as a goalie, Mike, seeing you play and coaching against you, but you got to have that compete level. And that was something that I think for me as a goalie, it took time to learn how to kind of harness that in prep school and junior and in college. But even at the NHL level, the goalies that really compete, those are the ones that are stopping the most pucks. And it's not just battling to make a huge save; it's those goalies that are competing to find the puck, where you can just give up and drop to your knees and throw your hands up in the air because you're screened. But those goalies that really fight to find the puck, can compete to find the puck. That's important to me. I like goalies that have a good mix of athleticism and a technical side too. Like I think you can't be put all your eggs into one basket, whether it's being technical or being athletic. Like I think you got to find a happy medium. And I think the best goalies in the NHL are a good example of that too. So recruiting, like I'll look for that. I like goalies that can play the puck. If you can have a third defenseman back there, I mean, when I was a goalie, I really liked playing the puck. I know my defenseman really liked it, so I put a lot of pride into that. And then a goalie that can kind of steal a game, that's kind of an X factor. Like if you have a kid that can steal a game, or he can maybe face 20 shots and be lights out, and then a goalie that can stop 40 shots and be lights out. Like you got to give your team a chance to win every single game. And those are probably the big kind of characteristics that I like to look for a goalie. I mean, and obviously the intangibles too of being a good person, being a good teammate. Those things do go a long way. I also too, for being a goalie, I kind of pride myself on not being too much of a weirdo. My wife and I joke around the Michael Scott, where she would say that I'm not superstitious, I'm just a little stitious. So when I do recruit a goalie, I try to find one that I feel like is pretty normal. So like we can converse, we can have a conversation. Some goalies are normal, and some goalies are like aliens, and
Yeah,
try to
way out
find
of
ones
left
that
field.
are
You gotta be able to socially fit in with, like, the group, right?
exactly. I like to say I'm for the boys. I want my goalie to be for the boys too.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like that. It's, those are some great points. You hit everything that I believe in a lot of that stuff too, just having gone through it, and obviously, I'm not necessarily coaching, but, that seems to be the common theme of things coming up, you know? If you wanna sort of make it to that next level, you gotta show people you don't really belong at the level you're at, right?
100%.
Um, and for young goalies looking to play Division One hockey one day, you know, what do you think is a key element in their development that they should be focusing on? Or, in your opinion, what is the biggest skill that you can work on as a young athlete that will eventually help you transition well to Division One hockey?
The biggest thing for me, I would say, is skating. The most time that you spend on your skating, whether you're in a crease or you're in the neutral zone or you're with pucks, working on your skating, being crisp, getting to those spots as fast as possible, as clean as possible. We talk a lot with our goalies. We say everything goes head, hands, feet. Your head has to lead the way, then your hands, then your feet. And the faster that you can get there, you can get to the middle, you can get depth. For me, the best goalies in the NHL are the best skating goalies, and the best goalies again for me in college are the best skating goalies. And someone like you, Mike, like I think back to how you played, like you obviously you weren't 6'5", or you aren't 6'5", um, but your skating for me was special, where you were elite getting the spots. You could get there fast. You could get out and challenge, and that's how you could play big in the net. So if you have a good skating goalie and he's big too, like that's special. Like again, a lot of people talk about Pecorine. Like Pecorine for me is a very good skater, and then he knows how to compete from there too. Um, so it does take time to find the right mix of being skating and technical, and then kind of mixing in the compete athleticism. And I think that times takes a lot of time to know when you just need to skate it out and when you need to skate and compete your nuts off. So those
Yeah.
would be the things that I would talk about.
Yeah. No, I like how you alluded to the skating because, and then even brought up the short, tall guy thing, right? Like it doesn't really matter what size you are. And even Pecorine, he's grown a lot since he's been in the NHL with his skating, right? Because the game has gotten so fast and it's sort of worked in my favor a little bit as a shorter guy, you know, coming up through the rankings just because I always took pride in that skating and that mobility, and now the hockey IQ is just getting so high, and it's becoming so fast and so skill based where everybody needs that skill now. And I like how you sort of mentioned just that ability to take ice, because I think when it comes to skating, not enough people talk about depth speed, right? Everybody talks about lateral speed, but as a small guy, if I can get closer to the puck uh, faster, more often than you, and I can retreat back to my crease, well, then I can frame that net the exact same way that a 6 foot guy can, right?
Oh, totally.
And that's something that I took pride in, is sort of that depth speed, that ability to have that good crease management where like you play a little bit deeper when it's not a big threat, and then have that ability to kind of come out and really challenge that shot when you know that guy's about to shoot, to take away some net.
Yeah. No, there it's funny you bring up that, like, again, not trying to pump my tires, but I remember a save when we were in the NCAA tournament. Just so you know, whatever you as a goalie, you go back and you got some Rolodex of saves that you remember, but
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
the NCAA tournament there, we're playing Denver, and in the second period, one of their D-man just coming down Broadway, and he's got his stick up by his ears, tickling it, just letting the freaking piss missile go. And
Yeah.
my team did an awesome job where they just cleared out the middle part of the ice, and I like had so much depth, like you. I mean, whatever. I don't know if people look things up on YouTube, but you can find the save on YouTube. Like I'm legit at like the hash marks, and he shoots it right into my barrel, and I just corralled it. But I remember that time, like I just felt like that was a really good IQ save, but also
Yeah.
being that competitive. Like I remember coming back to the bench because there was a TV timeout. Like the whole bench loved it. Like the boys were like, "D Mike's like you just came out there, like you literally just put your out there so far." So like you think about those types of saves, but another thing too, I wanted to touch on, Mike, like bringing up the skating. My second year of pro, I went to Boston Bruins training camp and was lucky enough to be on the ice with Tuukka Rask and Tim Thomas. Tim Thomas, another UVM alum like you, but Tuukka Rask, like I remember just being so impressed by his skating. And I mean, I don't know his height and weight perfectly. I think he's around 6'2 plus or minus, but like was just so impressed with his skating and how he got the spots. And I felt like no one could ever screen him because he would get to spots and we'd work to see pucks. And he's obviously had an unbelievable NHL career. But I remember just being on the ice with him, being like, "Holy crap, this guy is so freaking good."
Yeah. It really puts into perspective, I guess, for like yourself, is like, hey, maybe there's a lot further that I need to go, right?
Yep, yep. No, I think by that time I was 26 and Tuukka Rask was like 23 or 24. I'm like, all right, this is maybe the time for me to get a different profession.
Well, it seems like it's turning out pretty good, you know what I mean? And we talk about exposure today. We talked about what it takes to get to the next level and win. We talk about some different routes you can go and the pros and cons. But Jared, is there any last advice you want to share with my audience that you feel passionate about?
No, I just think I'm sure not the first person to preach this, but I think for goalies out there, I think if you're looking for a place to play, trying to find a place to play that you can play the most minutes and understand that you're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days, but hopefully you have more good days than bad days. And I think most colleges and most scouts understand that kids are going to have off nights, but you just need to have as many good nights as possible. So the goalie position for me, it's the best position in sports, but it's also the toughest position in sports, and it takes a lot of time and effort, not just on the ice, whatever, doing things with your goalie coach and having really nice gear. I mean, even mentally, just dealing with not facing a shot for 40 minutes or
Yeah.
having a really bad game and giving up some crappy goals. Like, how do you respond to that? And I think it can be a special thing when you're kind of down in the dumps and you work your way out of it and you learn a lot about yourself as a person and as a goalie.
Yeah. I love that. Great advice, man. Well, Coach DeMichael, thank you for coming on the show, buddy. It's awesome, connecting with a fellow Avon goalkeeper, and I know people are just going to find a ton of value in our conversation today on, how to get to the next level. Can you just let my audience know where they can find you or your school online?
Yeah, for sure. So to find my school, it's umass.edu, umass.edu, and then you can find the hockey team if you just go to umassathletics.com. I'm on social media and things like that too. So if you want to sauce me a follow on Twitter or Instagram, it's DMike3316, DEMIKE 3316. So don't be afraid to sauce me a follow and help my ratio out.
I love it. I love it. So go check out Coach DeMichael, UMass Amherst. All the links will be available in the show notes. He's been successful getting to the next level for decades now, and he's now coaching at one of the most successful programs in the country. And I know if you're looking to get exposure and make that jump, this episode is definitely for you. Maybe somewhere down the road we'll have you back on the show if that's something that interests you, man.
I'd love to come back as long as the audience doesn't think I totally suck. I'd love to come back.
I'm sure they will. It was a great one today, but I'm grateful for you coming on. Thanks for your time today. Take care, be safe, and we'll chat soon, man.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode, guys. If you like what you heard today, make sure to hit that subscribe button as we have tons of amazing guests lined up ready to come onto the show in the next few months. Make sure to tune in next week and every Tuesday from now on at 8 a.m. as I have the goalie coach from the back-to-back SPHL Minor Pro Champs, the Huntsville Havoc, Brett Schaefer, coming onto the show. And we actually recorded this one a while back, but I couldn't be more happy to finally release this episode as Brett and I give an inside look into minor pro hockey and what it takes to work your way up the pro ladder and develop the skills to excel in this world. So make sure to tune back next week. Without further ado, here are the giveaway details for the NeuroTracker X subscription we're giving away. To enter the giveaway, if you're an Apple user, simply go to the Apple Podcast app on your phone and leave us a written review and rating. And if you're an Android user, you can also download iTunes onto your computer, search the show, and leave a written review and rating on there as well. Once you leave a review of the podcast, take a screenshot of it and either email it to goaliehacks@gmail.com or DM me on Instagram with your screenshot and your full name. If you guys are also interested in getting started with the product, feel free to hit me up either by email or Instagram direct messages to get more details. Get excited, guys. Great things ahead. I hope you enjoyed today's show, and I'll see you next week.